Hello and welcome to Astro South. This is our fifth episode. We are talking about the last episode of Lovecraft Country, which is called Full Circle. My name is Christopher Peace, and
I'm Renee Namakau Umbaba.
how are you doing on this holy Halloween, Renee?
I'm feeling sanctified. I'm really feeling blessed, honestly. Hallelujah.
Yes. What are you dressed as?
I'm Farley Quinn, like a fake Harley Quinn.
Not Farley.
What about you? Who are you?
Yes, I'm Atticus, a fake Atticus.
Come on.
Fat, fat ass kiss. I'm kidding. But here are my, suspenders and my Atticus pouch lip, pody lip,
And the nostrils.
pouty lip. Letty.
You let him beat me? Okay, I'm done. I'm done.
Not the drama.
You can act.
But yes, obviously this episode was full circle, right? Everything that we wanted out of this season, we really saw come to a nice coming together conclusion, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I think that all the things that we felt like we were missing kind of came true in this last episode. It was very much a ministry to Black America, very much a call of action. Yeah, very timely message.
Right, definitely a call of action, especially with the ending and Letty saying that white people can't even do magic anymore, right? It belongs to us, which we assume that it came from black people anyway, so of course it belongs to us. And now white people are totally out of the picture as we reclaim our indigenous native heritage. Yeah.
Exactly. And I just felt like, because when I first heard her say that line, I was just like, okay, of course. But I feel like so many people were touched by that line. Like so many people were touched by the fact that they can, at this reclamation of space and of self. And I just feel like, well, that makes it powerful that so many people feel they have access to their own power, their own magic, their own practical skills, to just reclaiming their life and their livelihood and their sense of self. So, with that being said, I felt like that was a powerful line because it touched so many people.
Right, it did. And again, I still love the fact that it's very practical. I feel like the magic in this episode is very practical. The magic in this, series is a practical ancestral thing that we can tap into that's really real for us. I mean, I feel like the magic in ways was just healing, right? The magic in ways was just breaking the loops, breaking the chains that this particular family, but black people at large find themselves in. Find themselves in. So yeah, I think that it's something that we can easily access. Well, maybe not easily, but it's definitely something that is accessible to us as black people in this land. It's interesting too the emphasis on land that's really not as prominent, but I feel like land and place and the places that they went to are obviously important for the whole setting of it, but also important for the conversation of how land is connected to magic and creatures and us as indigenous people and things of that nature. So
Yeah, I just like we started off looking at these Atticus, I mean not Atticus, but this atlas that D has been drawing on, and it pinpoints to different areas where things can happen more. We see how
mhm.
Hippolyta just kind of go through different times and spaces, different locations.
Right.
We see that happening. So it's just like land plays such a huge part in what we understand about ourselves and what we understand about our connection to nature and our connection to the land. Um,
Hmm.
which is also why I think that when Letty says this line about we have this, we this ours, this is ours now. It's like what is really ours? And I just felt like I'm saying it again, this is not conspiracy theory that I mean it probably could be true, who knows? That the magic is just really America, honestly. Because
Mm,
of course the magic was stolen from Native American people, and then used in this white context in a very dangerous way, that was detrimental to people who were not white, specifically not white rich men. And they had to fight to reclaim it. They had to learn it and work with it and meet different people, build community, international sense of community with people. And they eventually got together and they took it back. They reclaimed it.
right, right. The Lovecraft Country. Yeah,
Exactly.
right, right. Especially at the beginning of this episode, well, as they try to save Dee, their Letty and Atticus are instantly transitioned out of body, right, to ancestral realms. One being the house from 1921 with Letty, and the other one being the castle that Hannah lived in. So Hannah brought Atticus to herself in this ancestral realm, and then Letty brought, I mean, what's her name? Hattie Mae?
Yeah, Hattie Mae. Hmm.
Hattie Mae brought Letty via the baby inside of Letty, right, to her in that ancestral realm. Um, Hannah was talking about, the first time, talking for the first time, throughout all the episodes. So that was very important for her to have voice. So the ancestral realm comes with like lessons learned. Hannah explored the loops that she found herself in these fires, right, that she constantly came back to after she was wrongfully abused. So, like, again, the loops of fire that she had to come back to, Atticus was the key of breaking this fire. So, breaking these loops, these chains that the family lineage had on them.
Exactly, which is so interesting to me to see. Well, I guess it was interesting to me that she, I mean, never got a chance to close her eyes and eventually committed suicide,
Mm-hmm.
just to free herself from whatever she was. And even in death, she wasn't free.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like interesting, like why that moment is always the one that she would come back to. Like, what about, I guess, what about the fear, and the rage and like the somebody always being on your back kind of.
Mm,
And I feel like what what got Hannah in that place, and then what got Letty in that place too. Is just like what is her fear that she was kind of trying to overcome, and because Hattie Mae is kind of on her back because she never gonna forget watching somebody die, or
right.
Hannah's not gonna never forget this whole building being destroyed, um,
Mm-hmm.
and like really running for her life. It's just like what are those things that kind of stay on us to, and we have to go dive deep emotionally to just figure out what it is, and even in death we can, as living beings, as people in this physical realm, can help the people who might be struggling on the other side, or
Right.
need our help here.
Right. And I just thought about how both of those were fires, right? So like at the manor, at the palace, the mansion, it was destroyed by fire. And then um the house that Hattie Mae's house was destroyed by fire as well. So it's interesting that that was the element of choice. That this is like the great work, the burning fire that we have to go through and endure to come out on the other side. Um, and I attended a talk recently with Kim Gallen, who does like African digital humanities work. But they're finding ways to digitize, like I think it's on Cape Cod, one of the like slave chambers in Cape Cod, and there's this thing called emotionality. that she talked about, and how like emotionality was a material thing, that when people walked into those slave chambers, they like felt, something in the air. They felt as a physical reaction. So I feel like the traumas, of course, the generational traumas that we go through, have a particular emotionality that like repeats, that loops. And I feel like that's what Hannah found herself in, right, when she was finally running and breaking free, even though she killed herself. That moment was a period of intense emotions that she kept coming back to, maybe, and Hattie may maybe that was the same for her. But yeah, like it's interesting how this emotionality is a material thing on our bodies, and that's recognized by the invisible birthmark, right, that Hannah talks about. So this invisible birthmark is like emotional thing almost, but it's for protection. It's for keeping the lineage strong, keeping the magic in the blood. So
Yeah, and it's passed down. Like, how do you keep getting the same birthmark? And then how do you grade continuously mark your family? I think
mhm.
that's very remarkable, and that is the truth of like this this emotions or whatever, because those things can be inherited. There are things that you feel and that you adopt that are probably generational, more than likely. And then how do we work with them? How do we work in them to realize our full potential and to really do the personal work that we need to do to be.
Right,
So yeah, that's very interesting.
right. You mentioned something about why the ancestors couldn't call on him. Do you want to revisit that part?
Oh yeah, like yeah, because he had to do the personal work. He wasn't ready.
Exactly.
He was not ready. He was not ready, and I feel like his entire life being interested in things that were strange or weird or whatever, being kind of separated from his community in that way, where he had interests that varied, like I don't know, monsters and books and all the kind of stuff. So that kind of stuff kind of were signs that he would be a person that was gonna, be set apart, change the world or whatever. But he just
Mhm.
not emotionally there. Like he had his father's issues, and then he kind of doesn't take really responsibility for himself or what he
Mhm.
can. He just had to go through this 10 week. I mean, I don't, whoever knows how much time it was,
Eh,
but for us, it was a 10 week journey of character development where he has to
mhm.
figure out what his responsibility is to people. Because honestly, he ran away from everything that
Mhm.
anything that made him uncomfortable, he ran away from it.
Right.
Dad, the army, Gian, Letty, he almost ran away from her like two or three times.
Mhm.
I think that going through to figure out what this magic is all about and going through to figure out what he really, really, really loved, which is his family, um, that kind of helped him stay committed to something.
Right.
And that once he figured out that what he needed to be committed to, once he figured out that he had to keep on this journey, it had to keep uncovering things, keep uncovering connections or whatever, that made him ready to be the person that he needed to be to,
Mhm.
I mean, basically sacrifice his life to save humanity, so, and to save his family ultimately. But he just was
Right.
he initially he was not ready. He was not ready. He had to go through it, and that's what I feel sometimes. I be like, I want to be there now, and it's just like
Mhm.
you're not ready. You can't.
Right.
You're not ready. The routine is not there. The structure is not there, and the work ethic has to be there and stuff like that. So him going through that journey, really just I thought was very, very, very phenomenal to see him to grow up from this very annoying. I mean, he captured the essence of annoying Black boy. I said, I know these men. I know what you're feeling because I know these annoying men. But he captured the essence and went from this annoying person to this family man who was not, who was better than Uncle George, honestly, and better than Montrose, obviously, but even better than Uncle George, honestly, because he didn't let his misogyny kind of get in the way of his decision making. And he kind of
Mhm.
really did work with everyone in his family, every single person in his family. He was honest and upfront with everybody in his family about the connections that they had to each other. So
Mhm.
He went on a long journey, but he got ready. He got there.
Yeah, he did.
He, he could understand what Hannah was saying when he got ready, when he was ready.
Oh yeah. So that's an interesting perspective though. It wasn't really Hannah being quiet. Maybe it was just Atticus not ready to hear Hannah.
Well, his ears weren't open.
Right. Still wet behind the ears.
That's why I said, "Open the eyes of my heart, Lord." Your heart
Mhm.
is not open. He wasn't ready.
Preach, please. But yeah, I definitely think that Atticus is the fucked up Christ figure in various ways, just the way that you were describing him, right? The way that he had to like take his life and save the world obviously there's Christ overtones with that. But
Well, let's think about all the ways he's connected to Christ. So you talked
yeah.
about Gethsemane. So he was like begging his
Well,
mom.
his whole character development was a beg, right, to not go through this. But there was a particular part when he was talking to his mother, because I think his mother drew him to him, drew him to her,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
yeah, in the beginning, right? But he was like, "Mother, I don't want to die. You know, I don't want to do this." So it reminded me of that part of Christ in Gethsemane, and also Atticus has two fathers, technically, right? Like one in heaven, George, and the other one, Montrose, who's just the fallible man in flesh.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, obviously Atticus dies on a cross. He's slit open, pierced his sides like Christ.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if he's going to resurrect.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He probably will. It would be
Yeah,
fun if he did. I
it'll
would.
be nice.
It would be fun if he didn't, honestly.
That part.
Whatever journey y'all gonna take us on, let's just let it be that.
Let's
Yeah. Other ways he's connected to Christ, it's just like he was missing for a couple of years, so you can get that the
Mhm.
time when he was just missing.
Right.
Um, you got him as a child being set apart, being I guess considered smarter. I don't know if he was smarter than anyone else, but he was very much interested in textbooks more than anyone else. Um,
Right.
yeah, I think that's the other way. So he's kind of similar to the Christ figure. I just feel like Montrose is always not Montrose, but Atticus is always like bringing out I don't know, I wouldn't say the worst in people, but just bringing out the true deep emotions of people. Like he has a very
Mhm.
good gift for that. Like I feel like Uncle George could kind of tame that,
Mhm.
because he doesn't let him like when in the first episode or second episode when he was like I saw,
Right.
and then Uncle George would have to tell the truth. He was like, "Oh no, we're not doing that." But Montrose does it like he really spills a lot of his emotions to him, and Letty does it. She spills a lot of his emotions to him. Christina does it too, even though hers is like very manipulative. But he has a way of reaching people, and making them like really share a lot with him, like he is a pastor or a savior or something like that.
Right. He is for sure. He definitely has a way. I was just thinking about Atticus though and his zodiac sign because I definitely think that he may be like his moon is something that quits a lot, quits things like frequently and like goes away and like avoids things. So I don't know if that's Aries or Pisces. It's kind of the same for both of them, but
Like Aries because he got too much anger.
yeah, he does. He doesn't know how to articulate it yet, or why even he has all this anger bubbling inside of him.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think that he has some type of moon that makes him fickle in ways.
He's just not able to commit, and that was his life lesson. He needed to learn how to commit to something.
Right.
Learn how to commit to Letty because
Me. No, I'm kidding.
he just was not.
Same. Shit.
Okay, and that's all right because that's what the show's supposed to do. It's supposed to challenge you,
Exactly.
and
And
that's what.
that's what life is doing for us. We don't have to commit necessarily. Well, we kind of do, but
Yeah.
still, we're learning, and it's all loops. So it's really up to us to get out the loop.
It really is. It
Yeah.
really is You gotta tame the loop like Hannah did. We gotta tame him because the loop can't tame me, honey.
That part.
No,
That part.
but yeah, I love the ancestral plane when they were like there. They went there through sleep or unconsciousness or whatever.
By force.
The Holy Spirit came upon them and the Spirit.
And knock them out.
I mean, straight out. What's that man named Benny Hanna? Whatever Benny Hanna, and he had a touchdown. They just fell out.
Benny Hands. Is it? Yeah.
They just fell. I love that part because I feel like that's where I get a lot of my knowledge from is through dreams and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's just like, and they just got so much information. Lady was learning how to speak the language of Adam. She had her
Right.
time and what she had to do. She woke up and said, "Let me get this pen and paper down and
Right.
get to work."
Mhm.
Atticus got his
Which is which is what we really have to do when we dream, right? Like, oh, let me, as soon as you wake up, oh, let me try to write this down.
let me write it down so when it come up again, I know what these different things, symbols mean, different words people trying to say and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, so I love that, and I love that they came as people who are already familiar to them. So
Hmm.
that makes things a little bit easier too. If you see somebody in your dreams that you know already and you can communicate with, in in a way that is familiar to you, it makes it so much easier to get what you're trying to get. And
Right.
be comforted by the assignments that they were given because they were, and we never saw them being given the assignment, which
Exactly.
we would ruin the show because then we would never be able to watch what happened in the end.
Hmm.
But to just kind of see them take on this and take on this assignment and as a unit really do what they had to do.
Right. Yeah, I really liked how I mean, I liked the episode. I saw one critique, right, that was like this episode was too short. How did they learn the language that quick? Et cetera, et cetera. Hippolyta has created new universes basically, and she can't like heal her daughter's arm. I don't know, but I really liked how Letty did go into the dream state and then learned from that. And maybe that was enough, to get the language from the dream state and
Right.
to know it, right? Because obviously, whatever we're dreaming is already a part of our subconscious, it's already a part of us in ways. It's just how do we decipher it? How do we take these symbols and really apply it to our lives to, change our lives? So, I think they had plenty of time to learn the language,
Mhm.
um, in my opinion. But
Yeah, and I feel like they wasn't like I feel like you said the last time they wasn't even saying that many phrases. It was just kind of a variation
right,
of more phrases. So it's just the confidence and the intention and the energy. That's why
right,
I be like sometimes the Lord know what I'm trying to say. Okay, y'all get what I'm trying to get at.
right,
Help me. No.
exactly. And sometimes I have to moan. Sometimes I have to hum so the devil won't hear me.
Glory, glory to God. That's exactly what they was trying to tell us. I just have to moan sometimes. I gotta cry sometimes.
Basically,
No, you get the energy, you get the intention.
exactly.
For Hippolyta, sometimes with magic, we always kind of treat it like we gotta fix everything to be perfect.
Mhm.
I just don't think that's the point of a human life is to make everything perfect. Then why are we here? Why are we existing in this plane? Why do we do the things we do? It's like sometimes the magic is just making things better for the person who needs to learn the lesson. Like Diana had to learn a lesson, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, that lesson cost her arm, but she had to learn a lesson. And from
Yeah.
that lesson, Hippolyta had to learn a lesson that
Right.
her freedom had comes at a cost to the
Hmm.
that she loves the dearest.
Yeah.
And they both learned together how to make this into an ability for Diana. And that's what I liked because I was reading these tweets about how a lot of times in novels and stories they make disabilities and people who have disabilities seem like they're very evil and sinister and not trustworthy, and
Mhm.
give her some sense of power through her the disuse of her arm and making this other mechanical arm that gave her even more confidence, even more direction in her life. I think that was very, very interesting and very powerful to me.
Right. It's definitely like a superpower, right? I definitely think that a part of the magic too is that they know themselves, and like each character knowing themselves and knowing how to control their bodies, control their flesh, and to know their spirits. Just like I think you mentioned that toward the end, Gia Gia can control her tells, right? So she connects Christina and Atticus together in ways through the networks of her tales. So that's kind of like a point where, she got the vision or the message from the soothsayer in Korea, and then she saw the flames coming up where Atticus was being sacrificed, and she stood in those ashes and flames and became something that she knew who she could be. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, I feel like Letty says that in the baptism scene, which I thought was a very, very beautiful scene. It just shows that the power of African based Christianity or whatever, just like being baptized in white and being protected and different avenues we can use to protect ourselves. It was very Christian, but it was like very black Christian. Nobody.
right. Hmm.
But she
It
said
was very Christian plus magic, which is Black Christianity.
she says discovering faith in myself and seeing God in herself and in her partner Atticus. So it's just like that's the whole point. Like you got to discover the faith. You can't. It's not nowhere to be found. Like when she was begging God, it's like, oh, why are you begging God?
Right,
It does get to the point where she's like, it's in me. Like the faith is in me, and I have to be the one to be the person that I need. And once
right.
you do that, you can. There's really nothing stopping you. There's really nothing in your way.
Hmm. That's so true. That's so true. Um, and it's like the destinies at that point were intertwined. She understood, that, oh, our destinies are connected. Of course, I have a baby growing inside of me, but still, it was beyond that, right? It was like almost elevation that the baptism did. I wonder if they I wonder if they've gotten baptized before this scene. But definitely baptism is an ancient ritual that's pre-Christian in ways. Um, and it baptism isn't mentioned in the Old Testament. So there's just, John the Baptist just starts dunking people in the desert. I'm just like, what's going on? Where did this even come from? So like, obviously this was a key moment for them to become something new, to like, be dunked into the elements and raise up into spirit, into knowing exactly what they need to do and how they need to go about it, even though it's an emotional journey. But
Yeah, it's like all those things can help you. All those things can be of assistance to what you need to be learning in this life. And that's
right,
also what farm it is. Like Atticus knew what he was, and he was trying to run away from him. But you got to know what it is. And you got to go. You got to go. You got to
right,
be saving so many people by just going. And I'm not myself. I'm not just saying the things that I hear. I'm saying the things that I need to hear and I know. Okay.
exactly. You know it without a shadow of a doubt.
Hallelujah. That was kissing in church though. I was like, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
Y'all done a lot up in the church. And I guess people kiss when they get married, but still.
Mhm. Right, right, right. Smooching in the church. We haven't seen Atticus's butt in a while, and I'm kind of upset about that. But yeah, let's move on.
Oh, he had his abs out, I guess, when he was
He
young.
did. That wasn't enough. We want more.
Oh, let me see what you worked hard to put together.
Right. Let me see the coming together of the bread buns. But yeah, Hippolyta, and just like, of course, Hippolyta, we worship her. But yeah, but of course, her hair was on point.
Mhm.
Her dress. What do you think?
I wish she got more vibrant. She came back vibrant because I feel like she had like jewel tone colors and before she went to this outer space place. But now she came back. She had like lots of jewel tone color, lots of patterns, very, very, very vibrant dress. She had on pants too for the first time. Yeah.
With the symbol of liberation during that period, maybe, especially for her. But I definitely think that her whole attitude had changed because she had seen so much, right? She had lived way longer than what she lived on Earth, right? So I think the impact of time has affected her in vibrant ways, in ways that she even understood, how Diana would be angry with her, but she was trying to push her past that
Right.
to creativity, right? Like that's why she slipped the graphic novel
Hmm.
under her door, and said the artist Afua taught her how to draw like this. So Afua is a real artist. I hope I'm saying her name right. Um, and the drawings were magnificent, right? So Diana was like, Who taught you to draw like this? How did you create these worlds from the inside of you?" And that's what I liked about that piece, even though Dee was upset with Hippolyta. um, Hippolyta said that she named herself Mother. And because when she was, out in the multiverse, when she named herself Mother, she came back to Diana, to help her because she probably knew um, that she had to be a mother. When she named herself Mother, she knew what she had to be. So again, it reiterates the power of naming yourself. They're all naming themselves in various ways. So
Yeah, I love how she chose to be mother and chose to name herself and found power in that. I feel like a lot of times what we teach about motherhood, specifically Black motherhood, is like a burden, um, and it's like not a choice or there's no love in it. But like literally, she chose to be this loving person to the person that she helped create, and she apologized to her too. I thought that was very powerful. She was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry." Like
mhm,
I messed up, but I am sorry and I'm here now. So it's just like she really found power in that and
mhm,
power in motherhood. And I think that that is very important for us to know, specifically for, for me, because sometimes motherhood can look a different way when you're a child, but
mhm,
it is a very, 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 very powerful position to be in. And
mhm,
just like everybody getting a chance to kind of name who they are and figure out who they are for themselves is the most important thing, especially when we're talking about family and like naming what family looks like.
right.
Um, like death to the nuclear family structure. Like, who cares? Like, does the family have to be like that all the time? Black people know that family does not always look like that, and
Right.
that's before European intervention in Africa. Family didn't always look like this one, two parent children, two children, and then the dog.
2.4, 2.4 kids, 1.8 dogs.
Yeah, family has never really looked like that for us, and it never was intended for us to exist in that kind of family structure. So, kind of praising the family that is non-nuclear was very interesting to me. Even though I feel like Gian should have got some love, but
Yeah.
it's not just not what she meant to have this time. But
Mhm.
and Ruby deserved better. But like choosing family and choosing like everybody's energy is what's going to help make the children better, make the children stronger.
Right. Yeah, just like that car scene where they're all, singing and stuff. Like that was a prime example of kind of like how, as you mentioned, all of their love made Atticus. Like it took really all of them to lead him to that place because they knew, or probably he knew he wasn't coming back alive, but he was driving to his destruction, right? And um, but still, I definitely think that I mean, she came in. Her episode was beautiful, right? But then she came into the latter part. Her mother's gone now, so she's in ways family less,
Yeah.
or motherless. So she's trying to, find a purpose with helping Atticus through this. But it's still like a love. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was emphasized as much, but she still loved Atticus, and Atticus still loved her, and Atticus still loved, Letty. That didn't change, but still, they, I don't know if they tried to like minimize her as kind of like the other woman in ways, but it was still like a strong bond between them, especially as we see in that restaurant scene.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that's what's most important for us to remember that it challenges what we believe about the relationship between men and women who have slept with the same man. It can be, it can be, it can be. I mean, it is a lot of times. We just don't want to name it that or put it in that way. But I just feel like it can be a loving environment for everyone, where everyone gets kind of what they need, and people are supported, and encouraged
Right.
in life. And I think that that was the most important thing that Dora taught him about family, because Montrose and Uncle George were definitely a big part of her life, and that was her family.
Hmm.
Family just looked different.
Right. Right. And family, and also in regards to Ruby Baptiste, um, and how she basically, I don't know. Obviously, there was tension between her and Letty throughout this whole time. There tried to be some resolution in this episode, but it kind of fell flat right when Christina embodied Ruby, which is kind of like a weird spin off of what's been happening with them. Right? Obviously, they've been changing bodies and stuff, but now Christina is Ruby. Um,
Which is what
right.
we wanted all along.
Exactly. Exactly. She was just prepping, for this moment because obviously Christina knew that they was going to try to, pull some shit. So this was the way in. Ruby has always been really the way in,
Hmm.
for Christina to have a foot in that. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I still don't know exactly what happens to Ruby because when Christina and Ruby's body and Letty are fighting in a tower, um, there are flashes of like images of like Ruby and what's happening, right? Oh no, that's when Atticus is on the cross and Christina is basically dying or about to die. There's flashes of what's happening to Ruby, but we still don't know exactly what's happened to Ruby. We see her in like a bed,
Yeah.
but Christina says she's like dead, but we don't know exactly what's happening. But I just think Ruby could have ended a little better. I feel like obviously some anti-blackness is playing there with the way that things just ended up for her because I feel like she was a bigger part of that than just to end by a white woman taking her body.
Yeah. I think that um we just didn't explore colorism very fairly in this series. I mean, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Um Definitely Ruby. It's just hard because we know Ruby is kind of flawed. Okay, let's say that because all of them are flawed.
Yeah, they
They're
are.
all flawed. So then, why does Ruby's flaw get her in a killed? I mean, in a comatose state or whatever.
Right.
It just seems like, I mean, she'll come back. I mean, she's not dead, dead, I guess.
I hope.
Yeah, but it just seems like, okay, Ruby, everybody flawed. Everybody got their problems they messed up, but Ruby was trying. But I guess it's just how things go, you know. You could be trying, and that's all your purpose in life is to try.
Right.
Tried, and you got killed.
Oh no. But we also see Ruby's inner struggles. I feel like way more almost
Yeah.
like almost at the level of Atticus. Like we see his deep shit. We see Montrose's deep shit. Letty is just like causing chaos and trying to fix it. That's really it. And it's just she's pregnant and she's the mother of God now that has to be protected. But Ruby, just remains on the outskirts, and we see her struggling with being a white woman and then being a black woman and that body tension and then struggling for money,
Yeah.
right, and stability and struggling for love in that way. So it just seems like the struggle is was way more amped up for Ruby than anybody else.
Really. She went through the most. And I
Yeah,
just feel like we can't not acknowledge that
right,
skin color, her size,
right,
place in life, her socioeconomic status, all those things factor into what helps her believe what she believed and helps and just aids in her struggle to just get out and be better. Because I feel like she just really, really, really wanted to be better and to be actually loved.
right. And ultimately, she became the body that Christina talked about, right? Like for a spell, you need a body, intention,
Mhm.
and something else, a third thing. But she really became that body for this whole thing to transpire.
Yep.
And it's really sad that that happened, but in ways, it makes sense because white feminism mixed with magic, mixed with capitalism, doesn't make any fucking sense at all, right? So it makes sense that she would just, destroy bodies in this way. Obviously, it's the emotionality that we have with Ruby and knowing that she's extra struggling due to all these social things.
Mhm.
But she ultimately becomes the body that's consumed by capitalism, white supremacy. Because we really don't know exactly why Christina's doing all this. At least I don't fully know exactly why Christina just has to do this, has to kill Atticus, has to have all the power. Like, she's just like, trust me. Like, no. Like, what are you going to do with it? Who are you? Where are you coming from?
Exactly. There's just no purpose behind what she's doing besides just being in her father's position, to have the power that her father had. And that's what she's been going for this whole time. Like, I don't want to be excluded anymore. I want to be the powerful one. And that's really what white feminism does. It's like when it plays itself out, regardless of what the words are, when it plays itself out, it is, I want to have more power than other people. Like white men have power, like more power than other people.
Right.
It's
And
like
that's it. Like, that's all it is. Like,
nothing else.
there's nothing deeper.
Like you have to read feminism where she just kind of breaks down, the author breaks down just every aspect of where white feminism fails people, specifically black people.
Hmm.
It fails us because it doesn't talk about the issues that vary based off of, our background and our cultures, and doesn't
Right.
talk about just the things that we go through that are
Right.
and the things and the ways that white feminism intentionally creates even more struggle for us.
Right. And I just was reminded too, like when white feminists say woman, they mean white woman. Like they don't mean any other type of woman. Woman, the word woman to them equals white woman.
Yeah,
Uh,
it does. A
which,
white cis woman.
right, white cis woman, white cis nuclear family can have baby woman. Like,
Very, 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 very narrow. And it's
right.
supposed to be championing this thing that does not even include me. I had to
Mhm.
like that when the Supreme Court justice got confirmed, the Girl Scouts was like, "Oh, she's a woman and she's a Supreme Court justice." I was like, "Girl, she doesn't even like other women. She
Right.
care about women's issues.
Right.
You are celebrating her just because she a woman. White feminist at its finest because it's woman over anything and it's white woman over anything or anybody, to the detriment of the black girls that you serve, to the detriment to the Native American girls that you are supposed to be serving."
Right.
Okay, then. And it's okay. All right.
And it's wild that all like this whole season has been about that, right? In ways, it's been like about countering this woman, Christina, and everything that she is trying to like do for some reason. It's
Right.
still kind of unclear, and I feel like that's what white feminism is, unclear in ways.
Unclear. Unclear since the beginning of its inception. Unclear. That's why you got Susan B. Anthony and Sojourner Truth together. Why in the monument? Why? That don't even make sense. She didn't even like black people. Why would you even? Why are you playing us like that? Why are you playing like white feminism means that I'm against all oppression? No, you can be an abolitionist and still be racist. I don't
Right.
understand what y'all don't get about that.
Right. And
Yeah.
people, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to them that those two things can exist at the same body in the same discourse. Um, yeah,
They be just too worried about the binary. It's just like you got to be one or the other. So I'm not like them, so I'm not them. That don't even make sense.
right.
How it work?
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like she got her feminism on, and became the person that she wanted to be to the
Mhm.
detriment of his life, and it wasn't like she cared. She did not care.
She didn't at all. Like she mentioned, how her father talked about magic like it was just a game. So maybe to her it was something that she could play in as well to really see if she could do it. But I remember when she was slicing open Atticus, she was really, really deeply speaking in tongues, whatever that language was. She was like, she was really bathing in the bloods, and her dress became red instead of white, because the veins on the dress was drenched in Atticus's blood. But she was really into it. She was really adamant about it.
And that's so crazy. That's the thing about racism. It's never going to be not fluid. Racism it is dependent on the fact of the fluidity. So you talk
Right.
about segregation. Segregation cannot exist without the fluidity of race. It don't
Mm,
work like that. So even with her racist feminist self, she needed the blood of a black man,
mm,
the man she hates so much, the people that she hates so much. She needed their blood to be the person that she wanted to be.
exactly.
Don't make illogical.
Right. That's interesting about the fluidity of racism, though. That makes so much sense because so many people, I think so many people think racism is just, it doesn't move or is stagnant or, oh, that's old way of thinking that y'all are trying to bring here, or that's kind of, reactionary way of thinking that y'all are trying to manifest in these times. But no, like that reactionary way of thinking is transforming, is being fluid enough to show up in new ways of interactions, like on the internet and, with Zoom calls in particular, things like that. It's showing up in ways that it's just like it's the same because of the mindsets of people and how racist discourse works when it comes to these new technologies. I mean, it's just like shaping itself to be that.
Because it's built by the people who racist.
Exactly. It's like continued by them.
Yeah.
And it's for their children to bask in such a way. So of course it has to be up with the times.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how it plays out. And I feel like this show kind of exposes the ways that racism kind of plays out regardless of what systems we think that we're working in. So it's just like Chicago is not a legally segregated place, but there are other factors that contribute to the segregation, um, zoning and stuff like that, and where people can live and stuff like that. So I guess it is technically legal, but not like in the South,
Right.
where it's like super duper law. So it's just like this kind of it kind of just gets to hang out and do what it wants. It's like Chicago is not Mississippi, but it gets to act like Mississippi in different ways
Mhm.
that it kind of tricks our mind into thinking that it doesn't. So we get to see Christina kind of be the racist of the show, but it's kind of like how does she use her womanhood to counter those factors, like to appeal to Atticus in ways, to appeal to Letty and Ruby in ways, just like I struggle too, kind of stuff. So it's just like we got to recognize it for what it is and call it out every time we see it.
Yeah, she was definitely hardcore, trying to find solidarity like during the whole time. Like, yeah, I did this and my father did this, and I'm like, okay, girl, like,
Okay, we struggle. Yeah, everybody struggles. Like that's what she was trying to do with Diana. That's why
exactly.
Diana.
Down and was up.
Okay.
That robotic arm came in handy. Even though I think that was still very traumatic, maybe for Diana at her age to kill a woman. Like that's technically what happened, right? Like Diana's a murderer now, but
Oh well. too, so oh well.
Yeah. Everybody else was. She might as well join on
Everybody
in.
got join a family tradition. But it's crazy because she read the book, so she read Lovecraft Country. She saw how it ended.
Right, right,
Christine was never gonna stop.
right,
Christine probably ain't gonna stop now. Who knows? She might come back to life too.
right. Because you don't know what she done, bubbled up on the inside of her, stuck on the inside of her for a season such as this.
Right, exactly. She probably got immunity, whatever.
Right.
But
Mhm.
yes, because Diana suicide had it was never gonna end. It was never gonna end, and it's never gonna end unless you like kill it at the root. You have to really call it out. You have to really kill it at the root.
So you chop it at the root.
That's why I'd be like, I'm mad at people that say racism gonna die out. What die where? You talk
Right.
4, 5, 600 years of racism gonna die?
Just with one generation.
I know. Good luck. These children out here calling them each other N-word, like these white children calling their black friends the N-word today.
Right. Today, like right now, as we're talking.
Children less than 10 years old. They speak to
Right.
their friends like that. You think racism gonna die out? No.
And then like all the racists on TikTok, like just they're everywhere. No matter what platform, like it's still
Yeah,
racist.
they find a way, honey. They find a
You
way.
find them.
They could have cooked that pancreas for Atticus though. They could have put some seasoning salt on that thing.
They could have.
They didn't have to get him that thing raw like that.
Right, because he took it out. They had time to, put it in a microwave at least,
They
sear
could
it.
put steam on it or something.
And then I wonder if the blood was it blood for real or just something else? Because obviously that wasn't Christina's blood. Um,
I'm trying
but
to figure out what did they have from Samuel though? Didn't they need three different things?
right,
They got Titus thing. What was Samuel's thing?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Was it Atticus? I mean, I don't know.
Oh yeah, maybe Atticus is the
Yeah,
or whatever. Okay, and then just connected to Christine's body.
right. Because didn't Christina say something like, I don't want to kill the last of my family line in vain or something, talking about Atticus and Atticus's blood, um, something like that.
Yeah.
But when Christina came in to the workshop and asked for the book of names, Atticus was like, no. And then he did that pouty lip thing that he does throughout every episode. Um, no. He's serious. He's serious now when the pout comes out. But there was one scene where Atticus was very deeply reflective. I feel like he was deeply reflective this whole final episode, obviously, for obvious reasons. But when he walked into the workshop and he saw Montrose putting a sign on the window, and then Gia was working, and then Letty and Hippolyta was doing something. Um, and he just like almost cried, I feel like. But he was that song, I Am Blessed with Happiness, played in the background. And it was a true moment of deep reflection for Atticus before he knew that he was about to sacrifice himself. Um, so the elements of blood, sacrifice, eating of the flesh, like again, all of this is deeply Christian. Like it's super
It's
Christian.
very Easter Sunday.
Yes, very Easter Sunday. Like dress up and go to church Easter Sunday because he's about to die for you, and you're going to drink his blood. And
He had to go get it out of him. Shoot. I was
right,
like, that was interesting to me to see him, a dead person be in the physical plane. Like you can get physical something from him when he
hmm
did.
exactly. Yeah, I guess that was from the book, right? How they got that incantation. But I'm just like, how did he even come here? That. And then I was confused about, when he left the circle and went to Christina and Ruby in the car and caused the crash, right? So how did he leave the circle? I'm assuming it's because of Christina's connection to him that drew him.
Yeah,
But I'm just like, how did that even happen? So
yeah, there must have been Christina's connection to him
mhm.
because she already knew what he looked like, and then he just kind of came to her out of all the people to come to.
Right. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I feel like um, there's a lot going on again with sacrifice. Atticus, um, when he died, of course, Montrose didn't know. So I'm assuming Atticus didn't tell Montrose that he was about to be sacrificed.
I feel like that he's the only one he didn't tell.
Right. Because he couldn't take it because he's a Pisces, Montrose is. So he couldn't take the emotionality of it. He'll probably like switch worlds as you as you tell him is like already in another place.
You know, somewhere he probably wouldn't even came if
Right.
he wouldn't have come here. He knew his son was gonna die.
Probably not.
Which is interesting. His character development was interesting because he went from this abusive man to just like the most loving father ever. And I
Right.
guess people are, I don't know. I can't make excuses for people in like the real world, but
Right. Right. But we do see Montrose's trauma um, with the boy violently, right? So love and violence that comes up again, like we talked about before. But we see, Atticus's no Montrose's lover being exploded right next to him, and we understand, some of the sources of what Montrose is going through, but
yeah,
and
yeah,
how that translates to being a father to Atticus.
yeah. And like you said, naming yourself, he said he chose to be his father.
That's true.
He named
Yeah.
himself father. So I feel like that comes up a lot. I would have to rewatch the entire series to see which everyone says, like things that they repeat.
Right.
The first time thing is repeated, and I feel like the first time leads to something. Something of course new, but something also crazy, traumatic.
hmm When you say first time, what do you mean?
Like Letty's, well, the first person who says it is Christina when she gave birth to that.
Oh yeah.
Letty says it when she loses her virginity to Atticus. Atticus says it when he loses his virginity to Gian. Ruby says it when she loses her virginity to
Yeah.
Christina.
Her woman virginity.
To Christina.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they all say it.
That's interesting. I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah. I, you pointed it out like in the our first episode, and then I was like, and now every time I hear it, I just like, oh, I hear it again.
Right.
The
That's
exact
true.
same line.
Yeah. Because it's interesting. That kind of connects to what I was thinking about with the white slate and how, Letty's proclamation of magic being ours is kind of like a white slate that we need in ways. Um, because one of the people that I follow with Bible studies and deeper biblical knowledge, they mentioned how every time virgin is mentioned, it's not necessarily actual version, but we have to have a renewed mind, just like so we can have a Christ-like mind, which is a renewed mind, and that's what it means. Like it's a virgin mind, it's a new mind, so a mind after we've like died to the flesh or died to the earthly things, were resurrected with this new mind, this virgin-like consciousness,
Mm.
this first timeness that we experience due to laying down our burdens. So
Yeah,
that's interesting to think about.
I love it. I love to see it. Okay, that's really, really cool to think about that. And then the monster thing is not Uncle George. That is kind of racist. I thought that's kind of weird for people to say that.
That the monsters can be racist.
Or know that the monster is Uncle George.
Is it?
I don't know. That's what people are saying. I just feel like that's a little sketchy to me.
Okay.
Die and become a
I
monster.
didn't know that. Right. That's like you're trying it with that. Like at least he could be reincarnated as something little, a
Something.
little better. Not
And then why he got to be a monster?
right. That part. that part.
I thought that was just a weird way of saying
Right. I don't agree.
it.
Next. What else to debunk?
Right. I feel like romance is violent, but it's also
Mhm.
necessary. It's just like it's I don't know. It's just like I feel like we treat romance like we'll never be hurt in love.
Mhm.
And then just nothing that people can do that's not going to hurt you. Like nobody, even the person who loves you the most in the world, is going to eventually hurt your feelings or
Right,
leave you here alone, um,
right,
in death or whatever. So that it's even the people that love you the most are going to give some kind of they got it's some kind of pain that comes along with it. Not that we glorify that pain or we intentionally create it to create a stronger bond of love, because I feel
mhm,
like that is abuse.
right,
But romance is it can be really violent, but it's also just very necessary. Like
right,
the love is what I feel like endears us to Atticus and Letty, even though their love is not like the romantic love that we imagine, but that deep connection, that deep love is just really what draws us to it. And I feel like that's what saves a lot of people because Ruby's love for Letty saves her, you know?
right.
Uncle George's love for the family kind of gets Montrose to get himself together just a little bit,
Hmm.
puts him on a path to get together.
That's true.
The love is just so necessary.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking of one, I forgot which movie. There's this guy making a toast at a wedding. He was like, I'm paraphrasing this. He probably didn't say any of this, but basically, love is violent, but we choose that. We choose the violence, and we choose this person fully knowing that it's going to end. Fully knowing that. I mean, it may be a violent end or something like that, but that's the love part that we still choose them and we still love them knowingly that the violence is like embedded in it, unfortunately. But I don't know, maybe after the violence there can be reconciliation. I mean, I don't know. Because I feel like sometimes of course things are violent, but we go through the violence to get to the other side or to know not to go through that violence anymore.
Yeah.
um, so I've been thinking about me personally lately. I've been thinking about that with love relationships, but also just death. Not to be grim on this Halloween day, but also just death in general.
Yeah.
um, because I feel like if we meditate on it a bit better or a bit more and prepare for it a bit more, obviously we can't prepare for everything or can't prepare for the time when our loved ones leave or we leave, but still, I feel like meditation on it will put us in a better place.
Mhm.
Just like, when we think about anything else beforehand, we're in a better place when we arrive there. Um, so yeah, that was just a side thought, but hopefully the violence can end with sacrifice.
Yes, I feel like it's like you do have to go through it to get the results that you want. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like it takes like a really strong partnership.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of what they also are hopefully teaching us is like the kind of partnership that the equal footing, I guess, that we have to be on to be in love with other people because it should be equal and not manipulative or abusive. But also like with death, I feel like that's why so many spirituals are about death,
Mhm.
um, because there has to be some hope in death. Like
Right.
when Christina was like, "Oh, I used the death energy of William to create this new energy, this new intention for something else that I wanted to do. So there has to be some kind of hope there,
Mhm.
um, just for us to keep going.
Right. A physical, like it's almost a energetic transformation that has to happen, right, for us to keep going. That's why people, memorialize in the way that it does, so it can make sense for the energy to be here,
Yeah,
um, no matter if it is here or if it has transitioned to somewhere else, but it makes us feel a little better. Yeah.
yeah, most definitely.
Hmm.
That is all the things that I have to say. Love Dora, love Hannah, love Hattie Mae.
Yes.
That was such a great trio. I mean, talking
Mm.
about these grandmothers, I
Talk
love.
about the Trinity.
Talk about Trinities.
uh,
Or I guess Hannah would be. I guess Dora would be Jesus, most definitely.
okay.
Hannah would be God, and Hattie would be the Holy Spirit.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah.
Right.
It just like that.
It would be. Was Hannah pregnant?
Yeah, I thought she was pregnant the whole time.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense then.
And she's always birthing something, and then when Atticus,
Right.
maybe Atticus can relieve her of this pregnancy. Like you in the ninth month of your pregnancy forever? I don't think so.
Running. Fires.
I don't think fun at all.
Running through the storm and the rain.
Right. I love the transition of Atticus's calls to Gian, because it's like first very silent, very angry to very authoritative and
Mm,
passionate. That was great to see that kind of, I guess, trajectory or whatever.
right.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I I was thinking about the music selections throughout the whole throughout the whole episode, but especially when Atticus was being lifted up, and it was like some country music playing. It felt very Lovecraft Country in America and United States, in that period of time. Um, but it made sense. Most of the music made sense in this to me.
It was so
Uh,
southern. That was a very southern
it
backwoods
was.
moment. It seemed like a very southern moment.
Mm,
And honestly, in Atticus's death, I don't know. We found some sense of power and purpose because there are
yeah,
parallels between Emmett Till's death and Atticus's death.
right.
It literally starts the modern civil rights movement. His death
True.
is really the catalyst for that movement, which is unfortunate but powerful.
Very powerful. So in ways, Atticus is hopefully the catalyst for, Black people owning magic and really knowing who they are.
Right.
Uh, yeah, that's great.
It was fun to watch. It was an interesting journey, and I'm glad to have had these 10 weeks to chit chat with you about it and just kind of have fun, bringing more meaning to something that probably didn't have that much meaning, but so much meaning because that's why we sit here and talk about it because we like it.
Yeah. And I'm just really happy, to do this with you as well. But also like all the discourse that Lovecraft Country has created, especially amongst Black people, talking about magic, talking about science fiction, probably in ways that they've never experienced before or not didn't have mainstream access to. So I think this is important.
Yeah. And I just thank everybody who was a part of it that kind of made it possible. And thank you for telling us a good story because we needed that. I mean, we
We
all need something, but it's just fun to participate in something that just like means a lot to me because I like magic and all side, all those kinds of things. And
mm,
I like Black people, so
yeah,
great to see all my passions
magic and Black people. That's all I need.
in art, magic, Black people in art.
Magic Black people, art, good food. Let me stop. The list is getting longer. Uh,
Yes.
yes. But thanks again for having this conversation.
Thank you. Thank y'all for watching us. It's been fun.
Yeah.
We'll be back with more stuff. What are we doing next?
Yeah, I want to do what is it? Not rats, but witches. Ronald Dolph's
Whatever.
witch, however you say his name. But yeah, I mean it's like the voices, Chris Rock. Not Chris Rock. Is it Chris Rock? What's the Everybody Hates Chris guy?
Oh, Tyler somebody? Oh, the actual actor Chris Rock.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it is Chris Rock. So yeah, that's his voice. The voice is Chris Rock, but it's a small boy going through all of this
Hmm.
magic with witches. They're black witches, but the leader is white. So
Interesting.
right. And the grandmother is hoodoo as fuck. So
Okay, cut up. All right, this is gonna be fun. So
it
y'all
will.
just watch that.
Yes. Join us again for that. See you soon.